Let's watch one of my favorite scenes from The Dark Knight. With respect, Master Wayne, perhaps this is a man you fully don't understand. A long time ago, when I was in Burma, my friends and I were working for the local government. They were trying to buy the loyalty of the local tribe leaders by bribing them with precious stones. But their caravans kept being raided in the forest of Rangoon by a bandit, so we went looking for the stones. But in 6 months, we never met anyone who traded with them. So one day, I saw a child playing with a ruby the size of a tangerine. The bandit had been throwing them away. So I steal them. Because he thought it was good sport. Because some men aren't looking for anything logical like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn. Love that scene. Okay, anyway, Saturday, since it's Saturday and since you're here, why not continue my tradition of reviewing 2 movies for you? And I have the 2 movies here that I watched today, and let's start with the one I watched first. This is 2003's Cold Mountain, starring Jude Law, Nicole Kidman, and Renee Zellweger. Also, you have in this movie you have Brendan Gleeson, Philip Seymour Hoffman, Natalie Portman, Giovanna Ribisi, Donald Sutherland, Ray Winstone, Kathy Baker, and James Gavin, and even a young Charlie Hunnam is in this. Jax, he's in this as well. Anyway, this is the movie begins in the waning days of the American Civil War, the last days of the Civil War, with a wounded soldier, Inman, played by Jude Law's character. He's a worker who, when they show flashbacks, they showed him in the war, in the waning days of the war. They show a couple of the battles, and they flash back to when Nicole Kidman's character of Ada Monroe first came up on the mountain with her father, because their father bought a farm and he was building a church, and Inman was one of the workers building helped build the church. And of course, Jude Law and his character Inman and Ada Monroe meet, and they start this sort of flirtation with each other. But Inman's kind of a man of few words, and basically Nicole Kidman's character Ada Monroe basically has to drag things out of him. Okay, and they meet and they start flirting, and basically there's always the threat of the war getting ready to start, and they get to know each other, and then of course they become sweethearts, and then of course he goes off to war, and of course he gives her a picture of himself in this uniform, and she gives him a picture of herself, and with the promise that he's going to come back for her when the war's over, of course. And then this is the basic gist of the movie, where he's all fighting the war, she's back at home, waiting on him, and of course, during the course of the movie, they show him in the war, and they show her back at home, and then things start to go bad back at home with her. Her father dies, Donald Sutherland dies, and basically leaving her to run the farm by herself, because her slaves, she lets her slaves go free that was running the farm, so they go free, and then, so she basically has to run the farm by herself. Okay, at which point she's struggling, of course, to do this, and of course then she gets introduced to a character named Ruby Dawes, played by Renee Zellweger. She basically knows how to run a farm, and she basically offers her services to help her run the farm as long as she gets to live there, okay, and gets to eat and everything else. And she helps Nicole Kidman's character Ada Monroe run the farm. And then at the same time they show scenes of Jude Law's character. He gets wounded in the war, and then he just decides that he's sick of the war and he wants to get back to his sweetheart, so he basically deserts. And basically the rest of the movie is him struggling to get back. And they also show scenes of Nicole Kidman's character Ada Monroe and Renee Zellweger's character Ruby Dawes, of them struggling to raise the, to build up the farm and stuff, and getting it together and stuff. And you have those two dichotomies, two simultaneously things going on at the same time. And of course, she's constantly thinking of Inman, and he's constantly thinking of her, and then the various people that he meets on his way back to trying to get back to Cold Mountain, and her struggles to try to survive. And also there's a gentleman, Ray Winstone, who plays a character named T, who has his eye on her, and basically he's appointed himself the local sheriff, and he's going to kill anybody that deserts, for the Union, for the Confederate side. He's going to kill any man that deserts and stuff. And you have all those simultaneous things going on at the same time. And I really, really enjoyed this movie. Love the chemistry between Jude Law and Nicole Kidman. There was a real good chemistry between them, and you desperately wanted to see them reunite together. And then Renee Zellweger was just a pimp as this Ruby Jaws. She always had a saying for everything, and she knew how to handle a gun, and she was fantastic. And it's a real, true romantic love story, and I really, really enjoyed this movie. Okay, I'm gonna give this a 7.5. Okay, like I said, you got good supporting turns by Philip Seymour Hoffman, Natalie Portman, Giovanni Ribisi, Donald Sutherland, even Brendan Gleeson. A lot of good supporting characters in this, and just a really, really good movie. 7.5. Okay. Now, the next movie that I'll be reviewing is 2006, I believe this is. Let me make sure. No, 2007. Okay, yeah, 2007's Atonement. Okay, this is based on a book, and it's basically about a writer named Bryony Tallis. Who in this this movie stars Keira Knightley, James McAvoy, Brenda Bleth, and Vanessa Redgrave. And basically, the story takes place pre-World War II, with a fledgling, young writer, Bryony Tallis. That's her name. She's a 13-year-old, and basically, she has an older sister and older brother. Okay, and they live on this estate with their mother. And they so Nicole, let me explain the other characters. Bryony Tallis is the main character in this book, and then you also have James McAvoy's character, Robbie Turner. He's the son of the maid, who's actually very friendly with the family, and he's been put through school, and his next journey is to go through medical school, paid for by the family that he works for on the farm, on the estate. Excuse me. And then you have Keira Knightley, who plays Cecilia Tallis. Okay, she's the older daughter. Okay, and you can tell young Bryony Tallis, she has a kind of a crush on Robbie Turner. Okay, but of course he's an older dude, and he basically only has eyes for Cecilia Tallis, the older sister. Okay, and basically what happens is because Bryony sees something, and because she's mad at Robbie Turner, okay, she sort of falsely accuses him. Okay, that is a spoiler. She falsely that figures into the title of the movie, which is called Atonement. She basically falsely accuses him of a crime. Okay, and he's basically sent away. And he's like I said, him and Celia, played by Keira Knightley, are in love, but because of the lie told by Bryony Tallis, he's sent away. He's arrested and thrown in jail, and he has a choice because World War II is starting. So they give him a choice to stay in prison or go fight in the war. So he goes off to fight in the war, and basically the rest of the movie is him trying to trying to get back, making the promise, because years later he meets up with Cecilia, and they meet, and of course she's still in love with him, and she makes promise that they're going to be together once he's finished with the war and the war is over. Okay, and the atonement part is Bryony Tallis, who's, like I said, several years later, when she's grown up, she realizes the error of what she did, her false accusation, and what it cost her sister and her and her love, Robbie Turner. She realizes that, and she becomes a nurse, and she basically tries to make it up to her sister and to Robbie, for basically destroying their lives, basically by falsely accusing him of a crime. Okay, and this is basically the movie that they show Robbie Turner, played by James McAvoy, in the war. Him struggling, and dreaming of the day that he goes back to his love, Cecilia. And then they show a little bit of Keira Knightley back. She's a nurse, and then they also show Bryony Tallis. She's an older girl now, and she's a nurse, and basically she's trying to make up to her sister and like I said, and Robbie, for the wrong for the false accusation, and hence the title of the movie, Atonement. Okay, and like I said, I really loved the performance, especially by James McAvoy in this movie. I thought he was really, really good and real emotional. And I liked all three actresses that played Bryony Tallis, from the young actress that played her at 13, then there was another actress that played her at I think at 19, and then you had Vanessa Redgrave, who played the older Bryony Tallis. And basically this movie is basically about her trying to make up for basically ruining her sister and her boyfriend, for ruining their lives and stuff, and how it affects affects those characters and how it affects Bronnie Tallis for telling the lie and her trying to correct that wrong. And it has a twist in it that I don't want to give away towards the end of the movie. That's real. You know, a lot of people probably didn't like that part, but this is a real emotional movie. It's great direction. Like I said, great performances by the characters. I thought, and definitely a movie worth seeing. Okay, I give this Atonement a 7 out of 10. Like the performances, love the visuals. That the World War II scenes, the fighting and stuff looked great. Okay, even World War II London was absolutely looks fantastic. Okay, so definitely check this movie out. I definitely recommend it. 7 out of 10. Okay, and Cold Mountain, I really love it. I like the chemistry between Jude Law and Nicole Kidman. Renee Zellweger totally deserved her Oscar. She was outstanding and fun to watch. Whenever she said anything, she was just she held the screen really good. And I love this. It's like an old-fashioned Hollywood love story, and it's really worked for me. Okay, so I'll give this a 7.5 out of 10. Okay, so those are my 2 movies. Let me know what you think. Feel free to leave comments down below. And this is Trepacer saying so long and take care. And I'm going to watch one of my favorite scenes from The Dark Knight. And you take care.
I believe whatever doesn't kill you simply makes you stranger.